Okay, part two. Welcome back to Anthony Talks Too Much. This is Robert Anthony, and we are continuing with the story of the Emirates redundancy. I had to do a deletion of some files. I was running out of space. So I'm just going to start again where we left off, which was around the redundancy period. So as a recap, Bloomberg broke this story. Emirates plans to lay off 30,000 crew. Emirates PR team denies this. And then they continue to do so. But they do so without telling their cabin crew or this wasn't just cabin crew, it was the whole company, management, ground staff, pilots. So they did end up firing 30,000 of their workforce, and they never said anything about it. They just literally acted like it was like, don't ask, don't tell, it's happening, but we're not going to make a statement about it, which is really unfortunate, and I think just poor business etiquette. Even the other airlines in the area, in the Gulf, were doing similar things. Qatar laid off a ton of its workforce. Etihad did as well, but they actually were transparent. They released memos. They said to their staff, hey, this is the situation. We've tried everything we can do, and unfortunately, it's going to result in some people losing their jobs. It's a pandemic. That's just how it's going to be. But at least they did so with some honor and integrity. Emirates, it was literally like they didn't say anything to anyone. They did it very sneaky. Even after it started happening, they didn't confirm or deny how long it was going to be. So people were on pins and needles. But let me go back. I'm getting too far ahead of myself. What they did with the first round of people was they sent them an email, and the subject was business update. So it was primarily pilots. I think it was 380 pilots first that they started with. So these people got called into the training facility thinking they were going to get an update about what was going on with COVID, what the plans were, how we were going to resume back to normal operations, etc. Instead, they get handed this file that says, a packet of information, and it says essentially because of the situation, you're being made redundant. So redundant just means that because of the pandemic, you're being let go of your job. It's not like you did something wrong or, you're not fired. Fired means you broke company policy or you had, you went through certain protocols to end up losing your job. This is merely redundancy. This term, they don't really have it in America. It's just basically you've lost your job because of the situation. Not anything that you did, but it kind of was, but more on that later. So this is how it began, and this is how, of course, it spread throughout the crew community like wildfire, gossip. And still, the company didn't send out a memo. So then it was just essentially week after week, they were sending out this email to select groups of people to come in and basically, be told they're being let go. So of course, everyone was on pins and needles waiting for an email because the company never said anything. And that's what I still think is very unfortunate. You dedicate your time and your efforts and your life to working for this company, and they're not even going to give you the decency of being transparent about what's happening. And not only be transparent, but deny what's happening to the media. So they're telling the media we're not letting go our workforce, but behind the scenes we are. It's just very shady in my opinion. Just be honest. Nobody likes people that are trying to look good while they're doing things that aren't necessarily good. So I think everybody would understand if they needed to let some of their workforce go, and there's just a way to go about it that would have been a lot better. And one of those ways would have been to just offer furloughs. So that's what, of course, in the US and in countries with unions and workers' rights, that's what they did, because they can't just fire you. They have to give you an option to return to work once things go back to normal, if things go back to normal. So why would Emirates not want to give this same option to all of the management and pilots and cabin crew that had devoted time to the company, years of experience to the company? Well, my theory, and one that is shared with among the majority of us, is this was really an opportunity for them to clean house. Now, I'll preface this by saying who can blame them? At the end of the day, nothing is personal here. It's all a numbers game. It's all a financial game. And this was seen across all big businesses, not even just aviation, just big business throughout the pandemic. If a company is able to clear out some of its workforce and save money and then hire again cheaper, let's be honest, they're going to do it, all right? So that's the reason why furloughs weren't offered, because Emirates said, if we need these people back, we're just going to hire new people. It's cheaper for us to train them than it is to keep them on. And the ones that they let go were the naughty ones, right? So there was no rhyme or reason how they determined in terms of what was being shown and told to us when we were made redundant, that it had nothing to do with us. It was just, happened to be because of this situation. But everyone's like, well, how do you go about making these decisions? Why am I being let go, but my flatmate is still here? Or why is this person over me? It wasn't explained how they made this determination. So, essentially this went on for months. People just, and literally like you'll be working one week and then you get the email the next day and you know that you're going to go in and be fired. So it was a very stressful situation for people because there was no transparency, there was no communication, there was no heads up, there was no telling people, hey, it's going to last for this long. I mean, they essentially just expected people to wait around, continue working for them, and every night at like 6 o'clock you fear, or 3 o'clock when the office is closed, you fear that you're going to get an email. I think that's horrible. Now, I'm grateful that I was one of the first rounds of people, so I wasn't like going through this stress, because I was like maybe the third or fourth round of the redundancies, so I knew pretty early on. And then we were actually stuck in Dubai, so that's a whole nother story. But so that's how they did it, all right? Didn't tell anyone, called them in, this is the situation. Now, how did they make this determination? It's rumored that they hired an auditing firm from the US. I believe the name is KPG. Don't quote me, this is just the rumor. It's my freedom of speech to share this story, whether it's right or wrong. So just let me disclaim this all with allegedly, okay? Everything in this vlog is allegedly. They hired this auditing firm. And because it's the UAE and they own you, essentially, there's no privacy laws, there's no workers' rights, as I've said many times, they have all of your data, all of your files. I don't mean just your work performance and your attendance. I mean, what medications are you taking that their doctor, because we have to go see the Emirates medical group, is prescribing you? Who is your loan to? How much sickness do you have? What sort of sicknesses have you been calling out sick for? Did you have a history of depression? Did you see the doctor for depression? What contract are you on? Are you being paid more than someone else? Things like this. And then of course, all the personal notes in your file from managers. Are you difficult? Do you send a ton of emails complaining about things? That was me. Justified though, I was always trying to make things better for the crew, but it was a waste of time. And primarily, I think they just, of course, also went off attendance and warnings. If you had any sort of warnings in your file, they care about the negative, right? So it doesn't matter if you have 500 compliments here and you have one complaint from a passenger, they'll be like, oh, nope, goodbye. They would rather have someone that has neutral, no compliments and no complaints than someone with 10 compliments and one complaint. That's just how they operate. And like I said, who knows if that will ever change. They would have to get a management in to explain to them the value of retaining people that perform well and also remind them that nobody is perfect. But khalas, as they say in Dubai. So they hired this firm. So essentially they plugged in all of this information, all of these records and files of ours, and this firm did an audit and basically printed them a list of people, staff numbers that fit whatever criteria they were looking for. Warnings, high absence rates, complaints, expensive, etc. So that's how they made the determination. And then from there, they selected the people. They grouped them into different days because this was like a well-oiled machine. Like if you ever go to a hiring event and think that is really cool how everything's organized, the way that they fired people was quite fascinating, I'll say. They took over the entire training college. They had a certain amount of people come per day, chairs lined up, bodyguards, they had to have individual rooms because you had an individual meeting. It wasn't like a group, like you're all fired. It was like you're all sitting there knowing you're going to get fired, and you're called in one by one to have the decency of a conversation. And they had taxis lined up to take you back, and they had refreshments out like croissants and juice, and they really went like all out to fire you. Some crew got the email and they were like, well, F that, I'm not going to come in and waste my time, and they never went. I went and I filmed it, and I had a friend come, and it was a fun day. We went the day that I was made redundant. I went with my friend. We like drank, and then we like planned this whole party with other Americans, because basically they fired like every single American. There was only like a couple that stayed, so we're clearly like one of the naughtiest and most difficult groups. And that's how it happened. So, no notice. That's the situation. So could they have handled it better? Yes. Could they have furloughed us instead? Yes. But at the end of the day, this is the Gulf. They're not going to do that. The fact that they did all of this very preemptively before there was even flights back home, so we're stuck in the UAE, and they're not just like, you're fired, figure it out. Obviously it's, they're responsible to house you. They did say like, we're going to give you like 50% of your basic salary. Like basically they're going to continue paying us these peanuts to survive in Dubai, because none of us had repatriation flights. It's part of the contract. They are responsible to move you from your home country to Dubai and then send you back at the end. But in the pandemic, when the borders are closed, it's really difficult for them to do that. So all they can do is say, you pretty much just need to chill in our accommodation until we can find a flight for you. This wasn't like a few weeks, this was like a few months. So I was made redundant in June. I actually didn't get my flight home until the end of October. So that's like 4 months. June, July, August, September, October. That's like 5 months. It was basically 5 months. Living off our savings in Dubai. Literally, there wasn't any other option to get home. Like, there wasn't. We also, you have to remember, there's cargo and things that we need to ship back that are all part of our package, because we had a life here. So what I will say is, it is unfortunate that the company decided to go about it this way, because they really did let go of a lot of talented people, but not only talented people that have proven their loyalty to the company and made lives here. I'm American, I'm very fortunate that I can go back to the US and easily find a job and be in a country where I have family or whatnot to fall back on. For some other crew, that's not necessarily the case. Coming to work for Emirates, for some people that live in Asia or Egypt or India, other countries, third world countries, this salary and this life is better than anything they can find back in their home country. And that's why it is such an important job for them. And that's also the beauty of this company, that we have such a cosmopolitan workforce. The downside is there's no protections for them. So even though they're within a contract, that's the other thing with the redundancies. It didn't matter if you were within your contract. Now, Emirates operates on a rolling 3-year contract, so you're secure for 3 years. And then at the end of 3 years, they always have the opportunity to let you go or to renew you. Most people get renewed unless you're like a troublemaker or had bad attendance. Sometimes they would renew you only for 1 year, and you have to kind of prove yourself, and then you'll be extended for 3 years. But the redundancies weren't people that were like out of contract. It was literally people that were within their contract. So pretty much all rules and contracts and regulations went out the window during this redundancy period, and the company didn't care. And the UAE didn't care. I also remember there was a group of people. I even went to some meetings, like a large group of Emirates cabin crew that were trying to meet with attorneys and meet with lawyers and try to figure out the legalities and see if they could sue the company, either to like keep their job or to get more money, because they weren't offering like a package, there was no like retirement package or redundancy package, like, sorry, we're breaking our legal obligation to you, here's some money, like none of that. So there was a lot of people that were very angry, and I don't know whatever happened with that. I decided not to proceed. You can't make like a class action lawsuit in the UAE. So basically, everyone was going to get information, and then you would have to like sue them individually. And for me, it like wasn't worth it. I was like, I was like, you know what? I believe in everything, having divine timing, and I was there for over 4 years. It was just meant to be for me to go home. It's always difficult when you don't make the decision, but I was also kind of one foot out the door for many years. I was fed up that I wasn't getting upgraded, and I was kind of ready to move on and make a new chapter in my life. And so I think the redundancy just expedited that for me, because I probably would have been toying with the idea for a couple years. And then especially if I got the business class upgrade, then I would have stayed longer. So I think all in all, the redundancy for some people is like a blessing in disguise. But for others, it's not necessarily great for them to go back to their home country. And that's what's really sad. This salary that they're making, they're able to support their family back home and send it home, or buy their family homes that they wouldn't be able to afford. So for me, that's what was hard to see pursers and supervisors there at the company for like over 15 years, 20 years, just being told like, sorry, bye, and that's what you have to remember you're getting yourself into. So at the end of the day, the company never promises you forever. So you always need to kind of have that backup plan there, because there is no promise in the UAE. Nobody can live here forever unless you're a local, and you'll never be a local unless you were born here into an Emirati family. So yes, it's a city of expats, but there's always going to be a caveat, a star. You never know what can happen. This pandemic showed that, so nobody is safe. So just know that if you're planning on coming to build a life here, no matter what the contract is or says, I think the pandemic has shown that you really don't know what can happen, and anything is possible. I don't know if there's anything else to say about the redundancies. Like, that was pretty much it. It was unethical. I can't say it wasn't justified. It's the company. They have every right to decide how they want to let go of people. Do I think it's stupid? Yeah, because I think it would have been much better for them to just recall all of us once operations resumed versus, hiring and training a ton of new people who, like I said, they're just as likely to have as many similar bad things in their files eventually after they work for a company for so long than we did. Everyone is going to accumulate some sort of bad attendance or mistake or a complaint from a passenger over a certain amount of years, and like I said at the beginning of this vlog, some of us were in economy for 4 years. You really have your patience tested when you're in that cabin for so long, and the company isn't doing anything to help you get out of it or, to promote you based on your merits. The morale is quite low. So it's a lot easier to get into trouble when you don't feel like you're being valued as an employee. But at the end of the day, what I will say is, this is big business, and a lot of people are children here. Even myself, I did a lot of growing during my time here. You're coming to work for a business that cares about profits. You need to manage your expectations, and you need to just accept things as they are. I would say that's the biggest lesson I had. If you can just accept how things are, manage your expectations, you'll have the best time here, because the benefits of the job are many. Are there poor things about it? Is the management quite harsh, unfair? Yes, of course. But at the end of the day, you get an awesome accommodation in Dubai, and if you're not initially placed in one, you can transfer to one. There's a bus route that picks you up, and takes you to work. You're not responsible for finding your own transport. There's a dry cleaner in-house, so after your flights, you just drop your dirty clothes and pick them up again. You get a checked bag to go shopping with on your layovers, buy things from around the world. These are all part of the glamour that doesn't really exist in any other airline industry. Trust me, I'm working for the US now. It is not the glamour of Emirates. First of all, you don't get a checked bag, so we have to schlep all of our stuff onto the planes because the operations change so much. They might need to move you around. You got to find your own way to work. You got to do your own laundry. You're not getting paid money for an apartment or given an apartment. So there really is like many, many great things about coming to work in Dubai. So I would just say to anyone that is thinking about coming to work for this company, just manage your expectations. don't come and succumb to the negativity. And that's with any job. You know, people tend to be negative, or once you're kind of in the same world of people complaining, you lose sight of all the good things that you have in front of you, and you just focus on what you don't like. And if you're focusing on what you don't like, you're going to keep attracting that. So I would say just try to always remember how excited you were when you started, and to retain that excitement throughout your years, because you know the grass isn't always greener on the other side. I'm sure there's many people that were crap talking the company, that were made redundant, and then they decided to go back. You know, despite them saying all these horrible things about the company, they saw what it was like on the outside, and they said, oh, you know, it's actually not so bad. I can reframe my mindset and handle this. Even for myself, like I took a lot for granted. And now in retrospect, I have a lot more feeling of like positivity and gratitude for this job, this experience, even if some of the things that happened or the way that they handled the pandemic were not necessarily how I would have liked to seen it happen. It still is a great experience that I'm forever grateful for, and I wouldn't change any of it. You know, even the redundancies. I ended up meeting really amazing friends in Dubai during the redundant period that I would have never met if we were still flying. You know, and ultimately I was forced to go back to the US and start a new life, and that's a journey that I was meant to go on. And now I'm a flight attendant in the US, so now I can compare and contrast, and I also have a much better mindset. So for me, the whole thing was like a journey of personal growth. And you know, I think that's all we can do in life, is expand and grow and try to do better. Same for business, you know? Maybe Emirates will do better in the future. Maybe they're gonna get some management in that wants to make it more of a human interaction between the employees and the management. Because, you know, when I worked there, it was a huge divide. So that's all anyone can do in life, is try to do better, because none of us are perfect. We're all gonna mess up. Companies mess up, companies make poor choices, companies handle pandemics in poor ways, but holding on to anger or, you know, any of that, it's just not worth it. All we have is like right now and the future. And if you're focused on the past and negativity of the past, you're not going to be able to move forward. And for a long time, I was upset when I got back to the US. I was like, why am I here? Like the divide between the rich and poor, and I can't find a job, and I missed my life in Dubai. And, you know, I had to talk myself out of that cycle and get out of that negativity, and like be grateful for the experience I have, you know, be thankful for what I did experience, and move on, because I can't control the situation. No amount of complaining will get you your job back. And ultimately, I wouldn't want my job back. I love my life now, and I wouldn't want to go back to how it was, because, you know, there's things that I didn't enjoy. I enjoyed the experience, but ultimately it becomes a point, you know, I think with that company where the experience isn't always worth what you're going through personally. And, you know, that's why most people only last, you know, 3, 4, 5 years, maybe one contract, maybe 2 contracts, because it's a very hard job to really work your way through and continue on with forever. So you go, you experience, and eventually, once the experience stops bringing you joy, you leave. I'll just say to anyone that wants to join, you know, just manage your expectations, but be positive. Don't let other people and negativity bring you down. Be the different one. Be the one that says, actually, let's reframe this. Look at all the amazing things that this company is giving us. Look at this amazing apartment we have. You know, it's very easy to be a sponge to negativity. It's a lot harder to be the person that is gonna speak out and try to improve people's morale and mindset. So I would say just be positive. Remember to be grateful. You can find gratitude even in situations that seem unfair at the time. There's always a lesson. If you can find the lesson and reframe it into something positive, you're going to get a lot more out of it than you would have if you just spewed negativity. So that's all I've got for now. Until the next time.